as a promised video for all you subscribers, I'm going to do a video on one of my characters from my project One Step Further. So this character in this project will be my character, so if it became a real thing, it would be played by me. I even did a drawing of her in my book, and her name is ZOE Marshall. So, as One Step Further is set in the 19th century, and it's set like a circus, like Greatest Showman, like I said, it's not exactly Barnum's story, it's a fictional story, but it talks about the history of equality, but it's also inspired by Greatest Showman by adding in a circus, which was inspired by the 19th century. So basically, ZOE Marshall is an autistic trapeze artist, and since disabilities, like people with disabilities, they didn't get the right support back in the day, and people thought they were insane and weird. That's why they were like strapped up. But the thing with ZOE, she's learnt with growing up in a mental hospital because people didn't understand her right, that she has actually learnt to do trapeze, like not in the normal way, like she's actually learnt to make it her own way by being so talented with just using it with her legs. And I know if it becomes a real thing, that will be impossible. And I even said, if One Step Further becomes a real thing, I'm probably going to break a few bones on set. And yeah, but I told my mum about it, and she said, well, some of it you'd have to use some blue screen effects, like with the blue screen, because some of it will be quite impossible to do. And if it's going to be used with some armless trapeze stunts, a lot of it would have to be done on a blue screen, and maybe a stunt double, or I don't know, because I haven't really got started on the full thing yet, so I'm still writing it in this book. And she also kind of has a backstory, like when she gets upset when people misunderstand her, so she like storms off, and like when she's talking about her backstory, she's saying like when she got diagnosed because her parents noticed that she wasn't acting normal, as you can say, and then they found out that she's actually diagnosed with autism, and then they lock her away with a brother which she never knew she had. So basically, her and her brother didn't know, but they were siblings, if you know what I mean. So really, she didn't find out she had a brother all this time until she got locked up in there with him. But they're so amazingly talented how throughout the years of getting to know each other, how they learnt to do this crazy, like, armless tricks, like how they could do this kind of stuff in the air. So ZOE basically falls in love for this mainstream boy called Albert Collins. I'm just going to find a drawing I did of them, if I can find it. So that's Albert and ZOE. So basically, ZOE and Albert, they obviously fall in love, but they have like problems, like the fact how they can't be together because of ZOE's diagnosis of autism, and how like society saw like people with disabilities, like they think they're insane or weird or freaks and stuff. And the fact how Albert is like a boy within the mainstream who's kind of like the attention of it all. Like he's like a professional dancer who lives under the pressure of his powerful parents who got him into dancing. And then when he joins the circus, he feels more free. Like even though he doesn't have to fight for his rights because he's not affected by racism or homophobia or like ableism, which is like disability. Even though he's not affected by any of those, he just feels really like under all the pressure of mainstream of society. So when he ends up falling in love with a girl with autism who's been strapped up, he notices that she doesn't deserve to be strapped up because they're not as bad as how society think people with disabilities turn out to be, because they're actually a lot nicer and they should actually get to know them better. And I think their love story is quite important because I've seen like interracial relationships as stories and gay relationships and stories, but there hasn't really been one with a disability. And since I have been judged quite a few times in my life because of what people saw me, they thought I was insane or diseased because of my autism. And I think it's important because people can normally be judgy, but with this love story it talks about like a love story between someone with a disability and someone without a disability. And I think their love story is also quite important to this day, as it was in the 19th century, because as of this day, people like within the mainstream of society are still like embarrassed if they like someone who is a bit different to other people. So that kind of like shows that love doesn't have a gender or a race or a disability. So it kind of like shows that kind of love story, that if a mainstream person liked someone with learning difficulties, it doesn't matter, and people shouldn't be embarrassed about it. Like, they shouldn't just let go of their friends if another friend was dating someone who was a bit different. They really shouldn't be embarrassed about that. ZOE is also, like, besides being a really talented trapeze artist, she's not very comfortable, like, with herself because of how society has seen her as someone who's mentally ill, even though she's not mentally ill. She just sees the world a bit differently to everyone else. And I could relate to that because I have faced things like whenever people saw me as doing the wrong thing, like because of an autistic meltdown or whatever, like how ZOE learns to hide all of that, and that's why she's very not so confident about herself, because due to her autistic meltdowns before she got locked away, and the reason she got locked away, and finding out that she had a brother who was also autistic, and how like that's why she tries her best to hold it in, and she just wants to set herself free, like get out the strapped up uniform and just feel free. That's all she wants. So obviously when her and her brother get discovered and join the Equality Circus, as you can call it for now, and like even though like she's finally set free into a world of equality, she still has to be stuck in her strapped up uniform, same with her brother and all the other people with disabilities, because it would still be against the laws. And since like when Patrick Brennan, the other character who's like the ringmaster in the new P.T. Barnum, like when he's being all like, can I take a few of your patients or whatever, or prisoners, like I think for the mental hospital it's like all like you can take them but only if they're gonna stay in their uniform. Like even though she's under all the pressures, a bit like how I was after I got told off for certain things, like when she's slowly falling in love with Albert, who's pretty much not someone with a disability, and she's worried that people are gonna have a go at her and stuff, because also me growing up with autism personally, I was afraid of people having a go at me for doing certain things. So that's kind of what she's nervous about as well, because of how people in society see her, just because of what she has. Like, yes, this sounds a lot like Philip and Anne from The Greatest Showman. They look pretty much a lot like them, according to my book. But the thing with ZOE, she kind of has more backstory, like she talks more about her past. And like, the blue wig she wears, a bit like the pink wig Zendaya wears in Greatest Showman. That's basically, because since hers is pink in The Greatest Showman, instead ZOE's wig is going to be light blue because it's the colour of autism awareness. So I hope you like this video where I'm talking about my first video on a character from One Step Further, one of my projects, and hopefully I'm going to bring out like more of these like character videos from my projects even more. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and if you like them, then yeah, I'm going to carry on making them.